Have you ever got excited to find some bass on the bed only to leave disappointed and empty-handed after working them for hours? Today in this video, I'm going to help you out showing you some tricks of the trade in bed fishing and show you some video footage of fish that are catchable and fish that are not. Because that's something that if you have ever fished with live scope, you know that just because you've found fish does not mean that they are catchable fish. So I have on film some bass behaviors that are both good and bad to help save you some time and frustration out there on the water. Alright, so to start with, I talked to a good sight fisherman, and the first thing he told me before going out is he said, don't wear white. And that's something that I hadn't considered before. That's something that you see in trout fishing and explained in trout fishing when they're fishing those clear waters. But when you're fishing these shallow fish, if you can see the fish, they can definitely see you. So it's not just white, any kind of bright color. These fish are going to see, it's going to exaggerate your movements, and these fish are going to be easier to spook, so you do not want to wear bright clothing. So if you are going to be fishing for spawning fish or any kind of sight fish, be aware of your clothing. Now you don't have to go and break out your real tree camo from your hunting closet, but make sure that you're not wearing something that's very bright, because that will cost you some fish. Alright, so after you got your attire figured out, when you find these bedfish, what you don't want to see is fish that are not locked on. Now, what I mean by that, when you come up on these fish and you put your power poles down, a lot of times when they see you, they are going to spook off the bed. But you do not want a fish that goes very far away or takes longer than a couple of minutes to come back. Now, if it's a big fish, I'll give it more time because of course I want to catch a bigger bass. But if a fish takes a long time to come back to the bed, or goes a long ways away from the bed, that's a red flag that this fish is probably not going to be catchable. So when you come up on a fish, make sure that it's not running off too far. Now when you make your first pitch, again, they're probably going to spook off. Sometimes you'll get lucky in your first pitch in, they're gonna hit, but a lot of times they're gonna spook off on that first cast. What you don't want to see is them taking an excessive amount of time to return. You want them locked on a specific spot on the bed, and you don't want them. You want them returning to that area. If they're taking a long time to return, they're still going the same distance and taking a really long time to return, just quit wasting your time on that fish. It's not catchable for whatever reason. Maybe the female hadn't laid eggs yet, or maybe the fish has been pressured too hard. Whatever reason, quit wasting your time on that fish. Now let's go on to good behaviors. Now what you want to see is a fish returning quickly or not being disturbed by your presence. Now it will take some time sometimes for the fish to get used to your presence, but you want a fish that's not going very far and returning quickly. And when they return, you want them going to that same spot every time. If they're returning to the same spot, these fish are going to be more defensive and more likely to hit your bait. Another good sign is going to be gill flaring. You'll see when these fish are agitated, when they are going to want to hit, they'll start flaring their gills and they'll start opening their mouths, stretching their jaws. That's a good sign. And if you see these fish doing tighter and tighter circles, when they spook off, or when your bait comes through there, if they start going in tighter and tighter circles, they're not going as far each time. They're going a shorter distance before turning back around and getting locked on. That is a good sign. So now that you have some good behaviors and that show you these fish are catchable, what are some tricks of the trade? Now sometimes you'll get lucky, and when you pitch your creature bait in there, or your drop shot, whatever you like to throw initially in there. Sometimes you get lucky, first cast, boom, they hit it. But what if they don't? Now, what I like to throw to start with is something more natural, either a small creature bait or a small jig with a creature bait on there, or a drop shot. Now with my drop shot, what I'll do is I'll do a longer leader than normal, so I can leave the weight outside the bed so the fish doesn't pick up the weight, and that way I can just keep that drop shot right in its face. But on the trip that I went out on the film, the fish were really loving a creature bait on a jig or with a punch skirt on there. And I like something compact like a creature bait. This is a Pit Boss Junior. Using a Pit Boss or a Z-Craw, even especially the junior varieties, I like when bed fishing, because if you throw something like a big worm or something long with a lot of appendages, a lot of times when these fish are moving your bait off, they'll bite it, but they won't get the hook. You want as compact of a presentation as they will hit, as you can get them to react to, because that's less bait without hook in it. So while they may not like this worm in their bed, they might just get the curly tail and move it off, because these fish are not eating, they're defending. So you want something that's compact to where you have a high chance when they hit of that hook being in their mouth. Now if my initial pitch, they don't seem to react to the bait, they're okay with that creature bait being in their bed. Something that I like to do is go and bring a swim bait through there, either like a soft bait like a mag raft, or maybe a bluegill glide bait. And sometimes that swim bait they will hit when they won't hit a creature bait. But another thing that'll do is it'll get them agitated. What you need to do is go through some different colors. I'll have a bunch of different baits. I'll have some bright colors. I'll have that pink trick worm, something white, chartreuse. I'll have a few different color baits at the ready when I'm fishing these bedfish to see what gets them mad. Sometimes you can go and bring this swim bait or this glide bait through their bed a couple times, and then what they'll do is they'll start flaring their gills. They'll get mad and be more defensive when you bring something through there, and then you can quickly pitch that creature bait back in there, and they will hit it the first time. So if you don't have a bunch of rods, or don't want a lot of rods on your deck to try different baits when you find these bedfish, I'll use a screw lock hook like this VMC drop dead hook, and that way I can just go and unscrew and keep rescrewing some plastics, trying them out, and not wasting a lot of time. But that's a way if you don't want a bunch of rods on your deck crowding you up. You can use a screw lock, and then you can just have your different color and different style of baits laid out to give a try. Another little trick of the trade, if the fish isn't wanting to eat your bait, but it's giving those good signs of aggression, what you can do, if I told you want to block on a specific spot, if they're what you want to do is cast out there and actually bump the fish with your line, push them off that spot that they're wanting to defend with your line. What that'll do is that'll get them fired up. It sounds counterintuitive. You think you want to be stealthy, but these fish that are catchable are actively defending their bed. So if you're moving them off the bed with your line, or you're actually getting your bait and hit, running it into them, hitting them in the head with it, that'll get them fired up and get them more agitated and more likely to commit to your bait. We also will go and try to find the specific spot on the bed that they there wanting to defend, because sometimes even though they may be locked on a spot, they're defending a different spot on the bed. So make a bunch of different pitches at different spots on the bed and see what they react to better. And fish have different personalities, so sometimes, you know, leaving a bait in the bed and dead sticking it is a way to go, and other times they want a more reactive presentation. On this trip especially, they're really wanting it stroked. We had to go and pop these creature baits and these jigs outside the bed and have it zoom and pause right in front of their face. They wanted it rip past them and pause. That was the trick. So you have to be creative with your presentations and make a bunch of different casts. You know, keep going and hitting them in the head with. We were pitching as fast as we could back in at the fish, stroking it, hitting it. You know, keep agitating the fish. It'll get madder and madder, and finally they will go and commit to your bait. So I mentioned stealth at the beginning of the video, but sometimes that, you know, if you have a fish that's locked on really good, going and just agitating them, you know, bumping them, not worrying about that natural presentation. I tried to go and, you know, be stealthy and start with a slower, stealthier presentation first. But if that doesn't work, go and try to get that reaction bite, make them mad, push them off their spot they're defending, hit them in the head, and they will eventually go and mess up and eat your bait. Another important thing when you're bed fishing, having multiple pairs of sunglasses with you is key, because you're not using live scope, you're using eye scope. You're trying to look for these fish. So if it's a really bright sunny day, you know, the standard you know, gray or copper lenses might be good. But when I'm sight fishing, if it's cloudy, you know, these yellow glasses look kind of funky. You can see your eyeballs through it. You know, they may not be the most stylish, but they really brighten up your surroundings when you have these cloudy or more overcast days. So going and having a couple pairs of sunglasses with you if you're going to be sight fishing is something that will help you spot these beds better. And it's important once you go and you see a bed, take a second and look around, because a lot of times these beds, you know, bass don't go and honeycomb up like bluegill, but they're in that same kind of family, and sometimes you can go and find multiple beds in a small area. So look very closely, start going and traveling very carefully once you spot your first bed, because typically it's not going to be alone. There'll be another bed nearby. And when I'm bed fishing, you know, I took some shallow footage for this video and targeted the really shallow beds because it's easier to record, because we don't have crystal clear water here on Guntersville. But I really prefer, if I can, to target deeper beds, one where I'm just casting at light spots and hoping a fish is there, because those deeper beds, the fish are typically going to be messed with less and are going to be more likely to commit to your baits easier. So I would try to go and find some deeper beds. If the bedding bite is the winning bite, I try to go and focus on those deeper beds, because the shallow fish are going to get messed with a lot more, and it's going to take a lot more time. You know, we had to really work these fish, doing multiple pitches to agitate them into biting today. Hope you enjoyed today's video and learned something about these spawning bass behavior, and enjoyed the little tricks I shared with you today. Please like and subscribe. Use these tips and you too could load the boat.